Hello, my name is Evan Smith. This is my personal health and wellness video presentation, and I'm presenting on preventing motor and head injuries. So, one health behavioral change I feel an individual can easily make uh, is simply just by wearing a helmet when using any type of, ground transportation in the sense of like a scooter or a bike. And I feel like this relates because I'm walking around campus every single day and I see so many people riding around on scooters, riding around on bikes, and none of them are wearing helmets. And um, I think this is very risky. And I think that um, focusing on starting to wear helmets when you ride a scooter is important because helmets are very accessible. They apply to a lot of people who ride on bikes, ride on scooters, and I feel the main goal in wearing a helmet is to simply just protect people from brain and head injuries. So, looking at the dangers of head/brain injuries in the U.S., over 69,000 deaths a year are due to traumatic brain injuries. But when you zero it out and specifically look at biking and cycling, there are about 3,000 head injury deaths a year, along with 900,000 head injuries just in general. And when you look at these two graphs here, head injury mortality rates are higher in states with no helmet laws, and look how much higher it is from the states with helmet laws. And same thing here, cyclists hospital admissions for head and other injuries by month. You see the graph is all the way up here, all the way up here, and then start of helmet law, boom, immediately drops. So why you need a helmet? I mean, helmets, simple. Helmets have been proved to reduce the risk and number of head related injury deaths by 60 to 80%, along with reducing the risk of brain or head injuries in crashes by 40 to 50%. And when you zoom in and look at it on just bike related crashes, that same risk of brain and head injuries is reduced by 70 to 90%. So, in relation to the sociological model from the book, one individual factor um, that can play into one's wanting to wear a helmet can be a person's identity and values, which can shape their perception of risk. And this means, in the sense, this means like if somebody is more worried about getting to class on time and getting to class fast rather than getting to class safely, then their perception on the risk of not wearing a helmet is going to be significantly worse than the person whose priority is safety. And in a very similar way with impersonal factors, a person's relationships with their family, their friends, can influence their decisions in wearing a helmet because they get their value, whether you know it or not, whether you realize it or not. You get your values and your beliefs from your family. So if your family values safety, then you're going to be a lot more keen to wearing a helmet compared to if your family is more keen on getting to places on time and just being there, being present, and not as much at the safety aspect. Then you're not going to be as worried about wearing a helmet. And kind of similarly, roping into the same boat, an environmental factor is a person's community, as their values can also come from their community, being that if their community doesn't preach about safety and wearing helmets and being safe when traveling, then they're not going to be as attentive to that type of stuff and as reluctant to wear a helmet as someone who is in a community that preaches about safety. So, some common barriers that come with uh, helmet use, and some things that might deter people from wanting to wear a helmet. First thing is that some people just simply cannot afford to pay for helmet and or to pay for helmets. Um, that's completely valid. Um, the idea that helmets are lame and not stylish, I feel like this is a little bit of a childish reason, but at the same time, I feel like this is a very valid reason because this can apply to all age groups in a sense, being that a lot of college kids aren't going to want to put on some raggedy, black, boring helmet to for a 2 minute ride, right when their dorms right next to their class. Um, Thinking it's unnecessary for a short ride, looping back into the college student thing. Most dorms are like one or two classes away from, or most dorms are about 1 or 2 minutes away from their classes. So, I mean, most people are going to say, like, I mean, what are the chances I get in a accident? But just because the time is a lot shorter for the ride doesn't mean the risk of getting hit is any lower, especially on a college campus, specifically the Allendale campus, where there's a big road running through the middle of the campus. Cars are running through that every single day. A lot of people aren't paying attention, and if you're not wearing a helmet, you could possibly get hit and hit your head on the ground, and that could be fatal. You could brain damage, all that. And another thing would just be lack of awareness to the true risk of getting a head injury. As I was just saying, a lot of people just don't know a lot of people don't know the numbers that I mentioned earlier. A lot of people don't think that'll ever happen to them. They don't know how risky it really is to not wear a helmet. And I feel like some ways to overcome these barriers would be the distribution of free helmets through schools, funded by city programs to promote safe riding. Simple. Teach the kids young that the dangers of riding without a helmet, and give them what they need to stay safe on the roads, to stay safe when they're riding their bikes in the neighborhood. And on that same note, being that they don't want a bland, boring helmet, let them in school customize their helmet, choose out the helmet they want, so that they're more incentivized to wear something that they like and wear something that they want to wear. And another thing, in order to spread awareness, there could be more campaign ads about the dangers of riding without a helmet, and they could put out those numbers that I mentioned earlier, showing that it's truly risky, that it is truly risky, and a lot of people die and get hurt and get bad head injuries a year because they're not wearing a helmet. But once you put on a helmet, the risk that you get a brain injury or die from brain trauma dramatically falls. I mean, at the end of the day, wearing a helmet when you're commuting on a bike, on a scooter, whatever it is the best way to protect your health in your future. And it's also the simplest way. All you got to do is just put your helmet on, and the risk you're taking, in getting a head injury by riding your scooter just plummets. So at the end of the day, it's your choice, and I feel like this is one health behavior can that people can change that will very much benefit them in the long run.